West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
This is Michael Popok with some breaking news in the Trump trials. We've got our first witness who will follow the opening statements starting sometime on Monday. It'll either be Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning. David Pecker, as I had thought it would be a substantive witness, a roadmap type witness for the jury. David Pecker, the former publisher of the National Enquirer, best friend of Donald Trump, and one of the orchestrators, along with Donald Trump, of the Catch and Kill program, which is at the heart of the business record fraud and election interference case that's being tried against Donald Trump on 34 felony counts. I'm going to talk about David Pecker without laughing. I'm going to talk about his relationship and the role this witness will play in corroborating and tying together other testimony, including that of Michael Cohen. Now, some people might be shocked that it's David Pecker. I'm not. I think it's the perfect witness because he alone, because of his requirements to tell the truth under oath, the fact that there is a non-prosecution agreement from 5 years ago, with the Manhattan DA's office hanging over his head, the fact that he's no longer with the National Enquirer, the fact that he's given his testimony already to the grand jury, and so the prosecutors know everything that he's going to say and will keep him honest on the stand. He's the perfect witness. He corroborates all of Michael Cohen's testimony, Stormy Daniels' ultimate testimony, and other people on the stand about the operation of the Catch and Kill program, which he devised with Donald Trump, Michael Cohen, and himself in Trump Tower, back in a meeting back in 2016. So let me talk about David Pecker. David Pecker is also, by the way, Donald Trump worries about David Pecker night and day while he's brushing his teeth and before he goes to bed, because he's the one that he hasn't bashed him. He can go after Stormy Daniels, and he has, Donald Trump, mercilessly. He can go after Michael Cohen, and he has, mercilessly. But you hear nary a peep about David Pecker. It's almost like Donald Trump is blessing his David Pecker's witness credibility by not constantly attacking him. That's where we are now. Now, listen, I'm going to give you a lot of information on this hot take, but I'm going to pull it all together for you as a viewer guide, a listening guide for the trial that you'll follow, hopefully, here on the Midas Touch Network. David Pecker, longtime friend of Donald Trump, ran around in South Florida together, the National Enquirer based in Boca Raton, Florida, and owned by a company called America Media International, AMI. Remember that name. David Pecker is in discussions with Donald Trump around the time of the 2016 election. And at that time, there is a now fateful meeting in Trump Tower in August of 2015 that it's attended by David Pecker, Michael Cohen, and called by Donald Trump. Those are the three in the room. And Michael Cohen and David Pecker will now testify about that meeting. In that meeting, according to the grand jury transcripts of David Pecker's own testimony and that of Michael Cohen, this is what happened. There was a meeting in Trump Tower. It was decided that Pecker would be the eyes and ears of the campaign to look out for bad stories about Donald Trump, including sexual misconduct outside of his marriage, and then find a way to suppress it. Right? That's the election interference. That's the second crime that ratchets this up to a felony in New York. They then decided that the National Enquirer would be reimbursed for any payments that they made to these various people, including women, mainly women, as part of this, to paraphrase David Pecker, the catch and kill program. But of course, because Donald Trump is cheap and stupid, he failed to make payments to David Pecker, which required Michael Cohen to make the payments to Stormy Daniels, and we're here at a criminal prosecution. Let me keep going. David Pecker knows where all the bodies are buried. He knows, and Donald Trump knows that he knows. In fact, there is a recorded phone call. We don't yet have a copy, but I assure you will be played in the courtroom. There is a recorded phone call between Michael Cohen, because Michael Cohen recorded a lot of his interactions with Donald Trump, thank God. Michael Cohen in a phone call with Donald Trump in 2018, in which Donald Trump said, wouldn't it be lovely if David Pecker got hit by a truck so that he couldn't ultimately testify about the catch and kill program. I mean, when a jury hears that, talk about bombshell, talk about weather-changing evidence. And I've done trial law for a long time. The jury will be at rapt attention, on the edge of their seat, and riveted by the testimony of David Pecker. And when they find out later, especially an opening statement, I would assume, about hit by a truck, Donald Trump thinks David Pecker is his ultimate undoing in the case, and he would like to see him die by automobile. At least that's the recording. It doesn't even have to be Michael Cohen's testimony. That's what people don't understand about Michael Cohen, at least on the Trump side. It's not Michael Cohen alone. Michael Cohen recorded a lot of conversations. I'm going to play for you one on this hot take where Michael Cohen is having a conversation with Donald Trump about Karen McDougal, the Playboy playmate that they paid $150,000 to as part of the catch and kill program. There were three recipients of the catch and kill program. Dino Sarjudin, a doorman who had a story he was going to go public with about a love child of Donald Trump's with a person who worked in the building where he was a doorman. He got $30,000. He was actually the first, the test run for the catch and kill program. Karen McDougal, who got $150,000 directly from David Pecker, but didn't get reimbursed by Donald Trump, which led David Pecker to say, I'm out, I'm not paying the next one. And that was Stormy Daniels. And she got paid about 12 days before the election, the $130,000. And even Donald Trump wanted not to pay her, just to show you how cheap he is and how it's now coming home to roost in trials like this. There's also a reporting that Donald Trump told Michael Cohen, and I'm sure he recorded it, why don't we not pay Stormy Daniels, see what happens on election day, and if we get into the White House, we won't have to pay her at all, because it won't matter by that point. Again, reinforcing the mens rea, the criminal intent of Donald Trump, that he was committing election interference. See, that is the major issue for the prosecutors in this case, to hold this case together. It's the glue. They have to tie business record fraud, which is easy to prove, that the payments to Stormy Daniels were recorded as legal expenses as a reimbursement to Michael Cohen in bonuses. That's the fraud, the way it was recorded. That's a misdemeanor in New York. To ratchet it up to a felony, you have to have that misdemeanor in furtherance of a second crime. Crime doesn't have to be charged. It can be an uncharged crime, but has to be something like election interference in this case. But you have this testimony from Pecker and from Michael Cohen that it was tied to election interference. David Pecker is also going to testify that to reward him for successfully operating and developing and devising the catch and kill program, Donald Trump paid him off how? By telling him, you did it. You helped me win the White House. Invited him to Inauguration Day. There's David Pecker on Inauguration Day. Invited him to the White House for a White House dinner. That's how David Pecker got rewarded, showing again the quid pro quo, the connection between the fraud and election interference, that even Donald Trump is acknowledging that David Pecker and the catch and kill program that he participated in helped make him the president. That's the election interference. That's the fraud. So we've got a series of things, including recordings of Michael Cohen that will be corroborated by David Pecker. We've got the August 15th initial meeting, the strategy session to create the catch and kill program. David Pecker will then testify about the operation of the catch and kill program in front of a very attentive jury, I assure you. No matter what their makeup, no matter what their political background, their educational background, they will be at rapt attention for David Pecker. That's why he's such a perfect first witness. As I said on Legal AF, you got to swing for the fences sometimes. You don't want to bore the jury to death after what will be a scintillating set of opening statements with lots of promises being made. Boom, Manhattan DA, put David Pecker up there. Not Michael Cohen, as I said. Michael Cohen will come later, after all the other evidence is in, to play some of those recordings, which then the jury will be like, well, I don't care what Michael Cohen's background is. He knows how to operate a recording machine. He knows how to hit play and, record and stop. And so that's all I need to know for those particular pieces of evidence. I'll just show you where Donald Trump is also going to get hogtied that's a legal term, at the trial because of his consistent lies. I'm going to play two clips back to back here. One is Donald Trump has told people and has said in the media that he didn't know Karen McDougal, the Playboy Playmate, and doesn't know what anybody's talking about payments. Really? Michael Cohen recorded a conversation with Donald Trump in which, in that conversation, he even talks about a $150,000 payment. He also recorded a conversation where they talked about Stormy Daniels and whether they're going to pay her in cash or not as part of the catch and kill program. Let's play that audio clip.
What's up, Mike?
Great poll, by the way. Seen it. Great poll.
Making progress.
Big time.
And you guys are good guys.
Oh, Pastor Scott?
I can't believe it. No, Pastor Scott. What's happening?
Oh, no.
Can we use him anymore?
Oh, yeah. 100. No, you're talking about Mark Burns. We've told him to.
Well, I don't mean that. Mark Burns. Can we use him anymore?
No.
Richard Lefrak, I'm sorry, Richard Lefrak just called. He just had, we have a chance. He had an idea for you.
Okay. So we got served from the New York Times. I told you this regarding to unseal the divorce papers with Ivana. We're fighting it. Kasowitz is going to
never be able to get that done.
Never. Kasowitz doesn't. They'll ever be able. They don't have a.
Give me a code, please.
They don't have a legitimate purpose.
And you have a woman that doesn't want him, I see.
Correct.
So you've been handling.
Yes, and it's all.
It's been going on for a while.
For about 2-3 weeks now.
All you have to do is delay it for.
Even after that, it's not going to ever be opened. There's no purpose for it. Told you about Charleston. I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David, so that I'm going to do that right away. I've actually come up and I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with
So what are we going to pay?
Funding. Yes, and it's all the stuff. All the stuff, because you never know where that company, you never know where he's going to be.
Gets it by
Correct. So I'm all over that. And I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be.
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
I'll pay the cash.
No. I got no.
Now we're back. That's that. So you got Donald Trump saying he doesn't know anything about Karen McDougal, but yet there's a recording that says he participated in setting the bounty, the hush money payoff amount. And then, of course, you've got the other recordings by Michael Cohen that he's turned over to the prosecutors that are in evidence in this case that Donald Trump has known about forever, that he can't really explain, in which he's having conversations with his lawyer, then Michael Cohen, about how to pay off and have it reimbursed. Now let's draw a line under all that. Let's talk about David Pecker's incentive to tell the truth. First of all, he doesn't want to go to jail. Second of all, his company, America Media International, AMI, signed a non-prosecution agreement. We'll put it up on the screen now. In the non-prosecution agreement, he said the company committed that if they commit another crime or they violate this non-prosecution agreement, they and the others, including their executives, are going to be prosecuted. So he's got that hanging over his head by the Manhattan DA's office and by the Southern District of New York. Thumbs up on that. So you have that. He also, of course, has already cooperated with the Manhattan DA. He was one of the first to go into the grand jury. So there's grand jury testimony that he has to comply with. Otherwise, he will commit perjury, and he will be charged with a crime of lying to interfere with an investigation. David Pecker, I don't know about him in the past, but he's going to be a truth teller and a spirit guide for this jury through the conspiracy and the two crimes that have been alleged. And he's going to bind and reinforce and bolster the testimony of people like Michael Cohen even before they take the stand. Now, David Pecker, let me talk about the catch and kill program and the what he's going to testify to. We know this from his grand jury testimony that's been reported at other sources. So we've got that meeting I told you about at the top of the hot take, right? We've got the August 2015 meeting in Trump Tower, attended by Donald Trump, David Pecker, and Michael Cohen, called by Donald Trump. And in it, and we have two participants who are now going to testify about that consistently, and they're not named Donald Trump, that they established the catch and kill program, that Pecker is going to be the eyes and ears of the campaign. He's going to find these deals, enter into NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and then make sure these stories never see the light of day. First test run was Dino Sajudin, paid by $30,000 by apparently the National Enquirer. Dino Sajudin suggests that maybe Michael Cohen was involved. Michael Cohen has denied he was involved. It doesn't matter. It's a payment from the National Enquirer, $30,000 to Sajudin, and he's told that they're going to run that story about the love child or whatever we're going to call it, the out-of-wedlock baby for Donald Trump. That story never sees the light of day. Sajudin takes to the media on 2018. He's already giving interviews to George Stephanopoulos, and that's Dino Sajudin. Now, there's been reporting that Dino is not going to be a witness in this case for the Manhattan DA. They don't need him. Why? Because David Pecker is a better witness, and he'll be able to talk about Dino Sajudin without bringing in a little bit of a wild card in Dino Sajudin having his 15 minutes of fame on the stand, right? An easier, more compact presentation through David Pecker. That's one. The next up, there were three catch and kill targets. Second, Karen McDougal, Playboy Playmate. She, a little more interesting. David Pecker does pay her the $150,000 on the expectation that he'll be repaid by the Trump organization and Donald Trump. That never happens. Hold that thought. Put a pin in that for a minute. But they do give her a combination of a non-disclosure agreement. They run like a story about her on the National Enquirer, and they let her do a fitness column for the National Enquirer, and then they kill that story. Later on, of course, when all these NDAs go by the wayside, the story of Karen McDougal comes out. Because David Pecker got, and I'm sorry for the pun, got stiffed by Donald Trump, then he refused to put up the money for the next one. The next one up was right before the election, really the last days of the campaign against Hillary Clinton, when Stormy Daniels was about to go public. And whoosh, they activate the catch and kill program, lasers, boom. But this time, because Pecker's not going to lay the money out, Michael Cohen has to lay the money out for Donald Trump. He reaches out it's sort of brokered by Pecker. Cohen is the one. Cohen signs the non-disclosure agreement with her, which is sort of weird, right? Except it shows the conspiracy. Trump doesn't want his name on it. So it looks like when you see the NDA, it's just between Cohen and Cohen and Stormy Daniels. Then the payment of $130,000 comes from Michael Cohen, who, according to Michael Cohen, I've heard, took out like a home equity line, paid the $130,000 with the expectations that he get repaid. These are the checks that form the basis, these payments of the 34 felony counts. The checks in, the checks out, to Stormy Daniels, back to Michael Cohen and the rest. Michael Cohen, because he's still in the organization and in good graces, and is like Donald Trump's consigliere, arranges to get repaid. But the books and records, which Cohen is not responsible for, that's Alan Weisselberg, the chief financial officer, twice convicted, spending time right now in Rikers Island for perjury, who's not going to be testifying in the case. He makes sure that it's recorded in the books and records of this New York corporation that it is legal expenses, legal services Michael Cohen rendered, and a bonus related to that for Michael Cohen. Eventually, Michael Cohen gets up, I think he gets up to $400,000 in total payments off of the $130,000 deal. It's like a bonus for the catch and kill. It's the repayment with interest, and to true it up so that he doesn't have to pay taxes on it, right? He needs, if it's coming out of his account, and he's getting it back, as legal services, the continued conspiracy is, and to show you the mens rea of Donald Trump is, that Michael Cohen needs about double that in order to pay the taxes on it, because it's going to show his income to Michael Cohen's law firm. You see what a tangled web has been woven by Donald Trump as the spider? Here we go. So those payments go out at a little bit of a vig on top, a little bit of a juice on top for Michael Cohen, and that's the $400,000 in change. All of those checks comprise each count of the 34 counts of the indictment. You see where we're going? So you're going to have Stormy Daniels talk about getting the check and her interaction with Michael Cohen well before Michael Cohen takes the stand. You're going to see the checks by some records custodian who's going to bring all the checks in. You got David Pecker who's going to be the spirit guide about the catch and kill program. You don't even need anybody else. And then you bring in Michael Cohen. Then you bring in Hope Hicks, who's a former press secretary during the 2016 campaign, who we've heard was involved with some of these conversations about the catch and kill program and the merit of it, the purpose of it. And this is the type of evidence the jury is going to hear. Real evidence, not social media posts, not rallies, not all this nonsense out in front of the courthouse by Donald Trump. Real evidence, right? Real proof.
It is Monday, the 22nd of April of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner the English Bulldog is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, the little Yorkie, is our door girl, and though she is still hobbling around a bit, we will be helping her seat you directly for our especially special daily special, River City Hash Mondays, because that's what we do after a weekend. It is. So how was your weekend? Here we are, not only opening statements in the criminal trial of the former president. Was he ever really the president? Well, yeah, I guess he was. We have to admit that, don't we? But regardless, opening statements today. But not only that, it's Earth Day. And Earth Day is not about just recycling, okay? That's helpful, but it's about a lot more. And there we are. So, since we had such a long opening, and I thought that it was important that we remind ourselves with the kind of pecker that we're dealing with. And now we know. Some of us already did, but I just thought it was a nice reminder to, find out what kind of a pecker is. And he might be in a peck of pickle peckers right now. Yeah, I didn't think too long about it. I really didn't. Anyway, so why don't we just go ahead and tuck into these first offerings, but let me give you a rundown on what these offerings are. As we start off here in the Bistro Cafe on this fine Monday, got to get our juices rolling, don't we? Is that how it goes? Anyway, legal action to hollow out Brown v. Kansas Board of Education is moving at deliberate speed. Not chaotic, deliberate. The Los Angeles Police Department arrested a suspect for the break-in at the home of Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass while she was home with her family. And after a recent exodus has left only a little more than 100 obstetricians left in the state, an Idaho group is exploring a ballot initiative for abortion rights and reproductive care. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where the public portion of the Panama Papers trial has come to an unexpectedly speedy end. 2 weeks. It's done. 8 years to get it to trial. 2 weeks. Wonder what's going on. We'll find out. And 2 more mayoral candidates in Mexico were found dead late Friday night, bringing to 17 the number of contenders slain in the lead up to just the June 2nd election. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com. To the right of the page is the chat room link monitored by Kelly Lincoln, and we thank Kelly for doing so and everything else that she does. Thank you, Kelly. Across the page to the left from that chat room link near the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com is the link to our Patreon page. And it would really help if you could become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio. There's quite a few people who have, but we always need more. And I'll tell you why, because the costs keep going up. Is it because of inflation? No. Though I don't want to put the onus on our providers. They're providing a service, and we found that when we pay our bills, we're able to fly under the radar and continue this powerhouse of resistance. So if you could afford to send us what you might spend on an espresso-type coffee drink, for instance, if you could send those funds to us once a month, it really does help us put a big dent in those bills and all the other costs associated with running this powerhouse of resistance. So thank you to those of you who have been so generous over these many years. Truly, thank you. And also thanks to those of you who may consider being generous in the near future. Thank you as well. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on the social medias, you can do that easily by going to @Netroots Radio, and Tom takes care of those mostly. So thank you, Tom, and everything else that you do as well. Thank you. You can also follow me out there in radio listening land on the social medias by going to @JusticePutnam. And I post the show notes and links diaries on Daily Codes 10 minutes before showtime, so you have quick access to those show notes and links if you follow my social media feeds, because it'll get you to Daily Codes, get you to those links, and then you're reading the article lickety-split. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West, and please, above all, would you please pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, Audible, really wherever. iTunes, Audible, yay. Yes, do please pick up those podcasts. Alrighty, let us now tuck into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays. And it's out of the Kansas Reflector by Tim Carpenter. Former NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund President Sherilyn Ifill said the nation should celebrate the 70th anniversary of the Brown v. Board of Education decision by the U.S. Supreme Court as overdue recognition of the necessity to end legal apartheid in the United States. Ifill, speaking to a diverse audience on Friday at the University of Kansas, warned the upcoming May 17 anniversary of the decision, declaring racial segregation in public education to be unconstitutional, would be celebrated during an era in which forces dedicated to derailing growth of multiracial democracy and citizenship were gaining ground. She pointed to recent court decisions against race-informed college admissions and the advancement of legislative challenges in Kansas and other states to diversity, equity, and inclusion programs on higher education campuses and within private businesses. Ifill, a distinguished professor at Howard University's Law School and selected to start a new center there focused on the 14th Amendment, said the 1954 decision didn't simply address subordination of black children through legally sanctioned segregation in a country with a deep history of genocide and enslavement. An intellectually thoughtful person wouldn't define a country with rigid laws compelling racial apartheid as a functioning democracy, she said. The Supreme Court also spoke powerfully 70 years ago about the importance of education to development of citizenship and operation of democracy, Ifill said. And I'm going to interject, is it any wonder they're trying to get rid of public education? It's one of the most powerful, unequivocal statements in Brown, and for the life of me, I don't know why we're not saying that at this time, she said. The court went on to describe education as the most important function of state and local government. I don't hear us saying that either. Eiffel, who served as president of the director of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund from 2013 to 2022, said education didn't guarantee a well-informed citizen. She said some of the most anti-democratic and harmful attacks on equality under the Constitution were shaped by graduates of the nation's finest schools and colleges. Failure to implement the idea of Brown as a vehicle of education, citizenship, and democracy placed the nation in peril given the U.S. Supreme Court's manifestly dangerous opposition to Brown. Those who have long been arrayed against it, Eiffel said, are feeling their strength and feeling that they can ultimately overcome this vision. Quealy of the Los Angeles Times brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. A 29-year-old Los Angeles man smashed a window and broke into the home of Mayor Karen Bass early Sunday morning, police said. Ephraim Matthew Hunter was arrested without incident on suspicion of burglary around 6:40 a.m., according to Captain Kelly Muniz, the Los Angeles Police Department's chief spokeswoman. Bass was at home at the time of the incident. Nothing was taken, and no injuries were reported, authorities said. This morning, about 6:40 a.m., an intruder broke into Getty House through a window. Mayor Bass and her family were not injured and are safe. The mayor is grateful to LAPD for responding and arresting the suspect. Zach Seidel, deputy mayor of communications, said in a statement. Getty House, in the 600 block of Irving Boulevard in Windsor Square, is the official residence of the mayor of Los Angeles. Hunter is being held in lieu of $50,000, according to jail records. A case will likely be presented to the LA County District Attorney's Office this week. This is the second time in 3 years that Bass has been the victim of a break-in. While she was running for office in 2022, two men stole a pair of handguns from her Baldwin Vista home, bypassing cash and electronics and taking only the weapons. Patricio Munoz and Juan Espinoza pleaded no contest last year to burglary and grand theft of a firearm, and both received prison sentences. Rebecca Boone of the Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays. A new Idaho organization says it will ask voters to restore abortion access and other reproductive health care rights in the state after lawmakers let a second legislative session end without modifying strict abortion bans that have been blamed for a recent exodus of health care providers. We have not been able to get a fix from our lawmakers, our politicians. We are going to seek a fix from our people. Melanie Folwell, a spokeswoman for Idahoans United for Women and Families, said on Friday, "The people in Idaho understand the contours of this problem. Idaho has several anti-abortion laws on the books, including one that makes performing abortions a crime even in medical emergencies unless they are done to save the life of the pregnant patient." But do they? The federal government has sued Idaho over the ban, contending it violates a federal law that requires hospitals to provide stabilizing care, including abortion, if a patient's life or health is at serious risk. Idaho's attorneys say the ban allows for life-saving procedures for things like ectopic pregnancies, and they contend the Biden administration is trying to create a federal abortion loophole at Idaho hospitals. The U.S. Supreme Court will hear arguments in that case on Wednesday. Idahoans United for Women and Families is fundraising and hopes to have one or more ballot initiatives ready to propose this summer in an effort to get them on the 2026 ballot. Across the country, there have been increased efforts to put abortion rights questions to voters since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade and removed the nationwide right to abortion. Voters in 7 states have sided with abortion rights supporters on ballot initiatives, and several other states have signature drives for future ballot initiatives underway. Pregnant women in the state's panhandle, that being Idaho, of course, now must either travel as much as 80 miles away or leave the state entirely for obstetric care. Some are delivering babies at home because of a lack of other options. Roughly 1/4 of Idaho obstetricians have stopped practicing since a near total abortion ban took effect in August of 2022, along with about half of the state's maternal fetal medicine doctors. 3 hospitals have closed their labor and delivery units. Well, that brings us to our break. And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, it can only end one way. The venerable Omen franchise now has new life with The First Omen. If ever a movie called out for a prequel, it would be 1976's The Omen. After all, where did that kid Damien they swapped for the ambassador's baby come from? Well, you're going to find out. Suspects appear early on when young American novitiate Margaret, played by Game of Thrones Nell Tiger Free, shows up in early 70s Rome to work in a Catholic orphanage. She has a wild roommate, there's a troubled younger resident, and anarchist violence in the streets, which is really bothering the powerful Cardinal Lawrence, a creepy as ever Bill Nighy, who takes a special shine to Margaret. Now, the Catholic Church isn't quite believable as the edifice of righteousness that it might have been in 1976 due to certain scandals in its alliance with political forces to void women's rights, but you couldn't exactly do this story without it being front and center. So, without spoilers, let's just say the screenwriters have found a clever and more timely way to involve it. TV director Arkasha Stevenson, in her big screen debut, has managed to both stick to the script, as it were, and make a pretty good film about corruption and female exploitation with its share of real scares and jump tricks. Props are also in order for prosthetic and makeup designer Adrienne Moreau of Megan and the Whale fame for the work on generating some of the more grisly female body horror scenes out there. One has to wonder about the marketing decisions around releasing The First Omen and the very similar Immaculate within 4 weeks of each other. Some say that's a better film, but with Omen's name recognition, it's been no box office battle. And yeah, the door's been open for sequels to this prequel. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at take2moviereview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Arthritis is common among veterans. Traumatic and overuse injuries during active duty are risk factors for developing arthritis. Fortunately, there are low-cost or no-cost strategies that can help veterans manage arthritis. Physical activity can reduce pain and improve function. It can also help improve mood and play a role in managing other chronic conditions, such as heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. You can do low-impact activities such as walking, biking, swimming, and water aerobics, all good forms of exercise. Arthritis-specific classes can help you get started. Information on classes, exercise programs, and tools are available at cdc.gov/arthritis. These resources can help reduce pain and improve function. Learning self-management techniques can help all veterans become more active, improve their overall quality of life, and thrive.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
I was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean when it happened. There was a sudden jolt and our submarine crashed on the seafloor. We were in total darkness.
That's Dr. Dejana Figueroa, a marine biologist and STEM teacher, talking about a deep sea dive she'll never forget.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I was afraid of the ocean. And there I was, 2 miles below the surface. But as a scientist, you prepare for that. Using our training and a little creativity, we fixed the sub and finished our experiments. The dive was just too important. Every dive gives us glimpses at things few people ever get to see. Glowing creatures, fiery undersea volcanoes. When we got back to the surface, I kissed the ground and called my mom, of course. But you know what? I wouldn't trade that dive for anything.
Dr. Figueroa uses her passion for STEM to discover new things and make the world a better place. She can STEM, so can you. Check out She Can STEM for more stories and inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
Here's how the voting system works, or doesn't. I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute. In November 2026, Crystal Mason, thinking she was doing her civic duty, went to the polls to cast her vote. But her name was not on the voting roll, So Ms. Mason did what typically happens. She cast a provisional ballot. It turns out that Ms. Mason was not eligible to cast a real ballot because she was on federal supervised release. That's not a voting disqualification in many states, but it is in Texas, where she and her 3 children lived. Everyone agrees Ms. Mason didn't know that. But Texas prosecutors didn't care at all. They maintained lack of criminal intent was irrelevant. All that matters was that she illegally cast a provisional ballot, and she was convicted of voter fraud and sentenced to 5 years. 5 years for casting a provisional ballot that was never counted. Finally, in April 2024, a Texas court rejected that theory and acquitted her. So, all's well that ends well? Not really. First, Ms. Mason had to live through years and years with a 5-year prison sentence hanging over her head. Second, the case sadly may teach people who have had a brush with the law to not risk trying to register and vote. The stakes are too high. That's wrong, but fortunately, Ms. Mason has taught us another lesson about fortitude and the importance of fighting for your rights. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. U.S. government cybersecurity experts issued warnings April 17th to election and public officials to lock down computer systems and train staff in preparation for expected disinformation campaigns by Russia, China, and possibly Iran. The FBI Counterintelligence Division, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence issued a joint 8-page report with the warnings and recommendations. The report cites recent efforts by Russia to create proxy media sites, which mix real news stories with stories using messaging to undermine confidence in elections and to plant stories among unsuspecting U.S. politicians and influencers. There is also evidence in Europe of Russian experimentation with AI-generated TV news anchors and AI voice cloning of politicians and public figures. The U.S. agencies recommend municipalities use only .gov website extensions to harden those sites and to distribute official information only through those locations. Multi-factor authentication for those sites should be implemented. For official social media accounts, the platform's highest security available is recommended. Security officials further recommend that election officials train not only their staff on what to look for, but teach voters to be smart about information sources and the sharing of false election information. We have the recommendations at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1938. That was the day the Keene Mountain coal mine exploded near Grundy, Virginia. Described as a flame-belching volcano, the explosion killed 45 and injured 3 more. It is considered one of the worst mining disasters in the history of Virginia. One surviving miner described the scene saying, quote, "I saw coal-carrying cars, motors, slate, and timbers spouted as if from a cannon. The state mine inspector determined the miners had been killed instantly. The mine had just opened the year before and produced 40 railroad cars of coal a day. But the mine was also owned by the Red Jacket Coal Company. In Mingo County, West Virginia, years earlier, Red Jacket had been a key player in keeping the UMWA out, making its employees sign yellow dog contracts and winning injunctions against union organizing. As a member of the Williamson Coal Operators Association, Red Jacket contributed to the hostile anti-union environment that created the conditions for the Matewan Massacre and the Battle of Blair Mountain in the early 20s. They called in Baldwin Phelps detectives to start evicting Matewan strikers from company housing. In the aftermath of the 1938 explosion, new mine safety regulations were demanded. The inspectors were finally given the legal right to conduct inspections over the protest of mine owners in 1941. However, there was no power to enforce the new regulations. The Phipps family commemorated the disaster in its 1965 song, Red Jacket Mine Explosion.
What could have brought such disturbance? Oh, what could have caused such a fright?
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
What a scene on that sad Friday night.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 48 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting highs around 80, which is much warmer than what we had over the weekend. Sunshine and clouds mixed throughout the day, winds out of the north at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Partly cloudy tonight, with lows in the mid-40s, winds light and variable. And then partly cloudy skies tomorrow with highs once again near 80. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Grass pollen is rated moderate here in Rogue River proper. The air quality index for the region is in the good range at 21 parts per million. And that daytime UV index is in the high range at level 6. Barometric pressure is falling at 30.03 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles. And relative humidity is at 94%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is 50 degrees with rain showers. Paris is 52 degrees with showers in the vicinity. Rome is 61 and mostly cloudy. Kabul is 56 and partly cloudy. Hong Kong is 62 and partly cloudy. Tokyo is 60 degrees and mostly cloudy. Melbourne, Victoria, Australia is 58 and clear. San Francisco, California is 60 degrees and sunny. Chicago, Illinois is 60 degrees and sunny. And New York, New York is 55 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Juan Zamorano of the Associated Press World Desk brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays. The public portion of a trial of more than 24 associates accused of helping some of the world's richest people hide their wealth came to an unexpectedly speedy conclusion on Friday when a Panamanian judge said she would take the 2 weeks of trial arguments and testimony under advisement. The trial came 8 years after 11 million leaked secret financial documents that became known as the Panama Papers prompted the resignation of the Prime Minister of Iceland and brought scrutiny to the then leaders of Argentina and Ukraine, Chinese politicians, and Russian President Vladimir Putin, among others. Judge Balasoya Marquinez noted that the case included more than 530 volumes of information. The public trial had been expected to run to the end of the month. The judge has 30 working days to issue a verdict. Those on trial include the owners of Mossack Fonseca, the law firm that was at the heart of the 2016 massive document leak. Jürgen Mossack attended the trial while his partner, Ramon Fonseca, did not, for health reasons, according to his counsel. Panamanian prosecutors allege that Mossack Fonseca and their associates created a web of shell companies that used complex transactions to hide money linked to illicit activities in the car wash corruption scandal of Brazilian construction giant Odebrecht. This whole process, from 8 years ago until now, has had a lot of consequences for my family on my personal situation, and truly has been a great injustice, not just for me, but for all the people who've worked for me, Mossack testified. I trust, Your Honor, we'll know how to evaluate all that has been said here. Well, according to Panamanian prosecutors, the Mossack Fonseca firm created 44 shell companies, 31 of which opened accounts in Panama to hide money linked to the Brazilian scandal. Fonseca has said the firm, which closed in 2018, had no control over how its clients might use offshore vehicles created for them. The company helped create and sell around 240,000 shell companies across 4 decades in business. It announced its closure in March of 2018, 2 years after the scandal erupted. At the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. 2 mayoral candidates in Mexico were found dead late Friday, bringing to 17 the number of contenders slain in the lead-up to the June 2nd election. One candidate who was killed on Friday in the northern Mexico border state of Tamaulipas, Noé Ramos Fuertes, was running for a coalition of the opposition National Action Party and Institutional Revolutionary Party, which had governed Mexico until 2000. He was running for re-election as the mayor of the city of Ciudad Monte. Another candidate in the southern state of Oaxaca was found dead a day after he was reported missing. Alberto Garcia was running for mayor in the Oaxaca town of San Jose Independencia. Oaxaca state prosecutors said Garcia was found dead, apparently beaten to death on an island in a reservoir near the town. In the past, drug gangs have been active in the area. The June 2nd national elections that are shaping up to be the country's most violent on record. Prosecutors said Ramos Fuertes was attacked on Friday, but did not give details beyond saying they are investigating. Local media reported he had been stabbed and posted photos showing a bloodied body lying on a sidewalk. Tamaulipas has long been riven by a drug cartel and its turf wars. Ciudad Monte is located in the southern part of the state, relatively far from border cities like Reynosa and Matamoros. In Oaxaca, the state electoral board condemned the death of Garcia, who went missing along with his wife, the current mayor of San Jose Independencia, earlier this week. The wife was found alive. The electoral board called Garcia's death a killing and said such crimes should not occur during elections. Do you think? In early April, mayoral candidate Berta Gaitan was gunned down hours after she requested protection and started campaigning. She was fatally shot on a street in a town outside of the city of Celaya in the northern central state of Guanajuato. I know I'm pronouncing all these incorrectly, but oh well. She had just launched her campaign for Celia mayor. Mexico's drug cartels have often focused on assassination attempts on mayors and mayoral candidates in bids to control local police or extort money from municipal governments. Alrighty. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Terrytown Chowder Tuesdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. De novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.